Hi, it's Jeff Mitchell from Nova Injury Law. I know it's a busy time of the year and all of us have important things on the go, but I am here to give you critical information about upcoming changes, changes that your government wants to institute for auto insurance in this province. It matters to me and it matters to you and it will matter to your loved ones. If these proposed changes go through, you need to have your say. I'm going to cover the changes that are proposed that, in my view, threaten your right, your family's rights, your loved one's right to seek fair compensation and access treatment if they're involved in a car accident. So let's get into it. What is the purpose? What is the goal of auto insurance regulation? Well, really, there's two. It's to keep rates affordable and stable. And that makes sense. We all want to pay not a ton of money for car insurance, less if we can, but we want to make sure that we have a stable rate and actually a good product. And what is that product? Well, in large part, it's to ensure there's fair compensation for people who are hurt in car accidents. When it's not their fault, they need to get access to fair compensation. But it's more than that. There needs to be good access, quality access to treatment as well. It's fundamental to the auto insurance product that we buy great access to accident benefits. Because sure, we have a public health care system. Sure, we don't have to take out our credit card if we walk into the hospital or our doctor's office, but we pay for more. We deserve more. We deserve fair compensation, but great access to accident benefits. So let's talk about one major change. Here, there's a proposed change to the minor injury cap. And you know what? It's going down. Currently, the minor injury cap is around $9,300. And the proposal on the table is to limit that cap to a low point, $5,000. This is going to change so much for folks who have soft tissue injuries or presumptively minor injuries. Now, we see claims all the time that the insurance company may say are minor, but we know they're not. We know that the injuries are significant, they're ongoing, they're persistently troubling, and they're worth more at law. Now, if this new case where the same injuries is now worth $5,000, there's less compensation going to that injury victim. As a personal injury lawyer, I can tell you that this will hurt injury victims. There's a loss of function, there's a loss of life, there's pain and suffering. And with these proposed changes, the government wants to say that that's worth less. It's so important that you consider this. And maybe you're not going through an injury claim, you've never had a car accident. Maybe you don't care about this today, but you can avoid the potential negligence of others. You can be the best driver in the world, make all the right decisions, be incredibly defensive as you're driving and do everything right. And you could still get in a car accident. It could be somebody else's fault. And here you find yourself bringing forward a claim for compensation. You want to be sure that you're treated fairly. That's what I do every day in my practice. And this is a threat to fair compensation for my clients. And let's talk about it, not just the dollar value. These proposed changes would lower that dollar value, that cap threshold, but also it's going to change the definition of what qualifies as a minor injury. Right now, if you're hurt today, the minor injury regulations consider sprains, strains, and whiplash. And what is being proposed is to be more inclusive about what is in that definition. You're going to see it's going to get additional items that are going to fall within it. All of a sudden now we see contusions and abrasions and lacerations, but also minor injury means any of the following injuries, including any clinically associated sequelae that do not result in a serious impairment or in a permanent serious disfigurement. We have more qualifications and potentially more inclusion of injuries into what is now, or could be, the supposed minor injury cap. This is highly concerning because this is a battleground for so many injury claims. Often my clients call me up before they're my clients and say, I've been offered X for my alleged soft tissue injury claim that's caught by the cap. Now there's going to be more claims if this goes through that would fall within this category. It's concerning because you could really have what I think and what my client would think is a serious injury. If you have contusions and abrasions, lacerations, a multitude of these injuries, maybe they're not immediately, permanently seriously disfiguring, but they can be incredibly impactful. They can hurt your quality of life. They can impact you and your family and your regular duties at work, at home, at school, and what you love. This is a big, big deal. And at the end of this, I want you to have your say. So, what are some of the questions that the government wants you to think about and they want your opinion on? What are your views on the proposed changes to the minor injury definition? Well, you know mine, and you may know somebody who was in an accident with supposed minor injuries, and you probably know theirs. This is an important question. You need to have your say. What are your views on changing Nova Scotia's minor injury cap? What do you think the minor injury cap should be in Nova Scotia? Now, we know that car insurance will go up if every injury is subject to a massive, massive limit of potential compensation. Not every injury should be worth $20, $40, $100,000. We know that. This isn't the US. People don't get rich on personal injury claims. People aren't looking to win jackpots. After representing countless Nova Scotians who have been involved in car accidents, I can tell you this. They're not out to get rich on car accident personal injury claims. They just want what's fair. They just want compensation for what they have lost. So a reasonable cap should be in place, but it's not $5,000 in my view. It should be higher. It was already cut down years ago, and it's been indexed by inflation. We all know costs are rising. Simply living costs more. Buying services, including medical care costs, are more expensive. So the minor injury cap should at least keep pace with the rising costs of our reality. Should the consumer have a choice as to what their minor injury cap is? So should they have an option of paying a higher premium for a higher cap or no cap at all? This is a really interesting question, something that Nova Scotia hasn't yet considered as part of an auto insurance product. My first suggestion is that there needs to be a fair cap, a reasonable cap. There is going to be a cap. Perhaps it's right for people to pay more money should they wish to remove the cap. But basic auto insurance that every Nova Scotian has access to has to provide a right to fair compensation. And fair compensation is not achieved by lowering a cap to an arbitrary number that we know practice and seeing it in the community, seeing it with our loved ones, that we know that number just isn't fair. It's not right. Moving on. Not just lowering the cap, not just increasing the scope of what could be within a minor injury, but also there's a potential to reduce the access to benefits. There's a question about whether the aggregate limit for treatment from a variety of practitioners, important people, dentists, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and counselors, should be limited to $1,000. Now, what can you buy for $1,000 nowadays? Some of these folks are really expensive to go and see. To limit that compensation to $1,000 waters away access to rehabilitative care, important treatment for so many accident victims. I'm sure we all know somebody who has needed to see some of these people to get the help that they need, to get help to help their families and their loved ones move on after an incident. Not everyone makes a full recovery after an accident. They need help. Especially nowadays, there's specialized people that can provide great rehabilitative services beyond what our public healthcare system, with all its constraints and strain, can provide. Also, there's consideration of expanding the definition of what an adjunct therapist is, and it would limit the visits to those qualifying people. Protocol treatment after an incident, car accident, isn't unlimited. We always want to make sure that our clients and injury victims, whether they're represented or not, have access to fair treatment and treatment that they need to recover, not just to have a little improvement, but to recover from their car accident related injuries. Limiting the number of treatments, limiting the people who are able to provide that treatment, or grouping too many people into that qualifying definition so as to limit how much treatment somebody can actually get, these are all negatives. These are significant trade-offs. And for what? unclear saving. There's a disconnect here in what's proposed and what the consumer will actually feel. Well, I can tell you that injury victims feel the hurt, feel the lack of recovery. Their treatment options are stripped away by auto reform. So what are the questions when it comes to accident benefits, which we call Section B? What are your views on the proposal to expand the list of healthcare practitioners who are eligible to design a treatment plan under the protocols? And what are they really saying? Can a nurse practitioner help design a treatment protocol? This is fabulous. Of course, people are seeing nurse practitioners because not everyone has a doctor. More access to healthcare is a theme. It's great for everyone. So yes, there's no great downside here. What are your views on the proposal to expand access to adjunct therapy under the protocols to include dentists, kinesiologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and counselors? The answer is simple. If folks after an injury have more access to more people, great, but it shouldn't be limited in the number, and it certainly should not be limited to a low aggregate amount. We want to expand access, rapid access to more practitioners with more specialized training so that we can take burden off of our medical care system and shift it to people who can provide tailor-made care for accident victims where and as they need it. Other questions. What are your views on the proposed aggregate coverage limit of $1,000 for dental and mental health services under the protocols, and for it not to count towards visits under the number of authorized treatment visits? So this one's easy. Services cost a lot of money. We can't predict what treatment we're going to need for the injuries that we sustain in a car accident we hope not to have. Aggregate limits are a bad idea. What are your views on the proposal to amend the priority of payment for Section B benefits such that the auto insurance provider will become the first priority payer? Well, if the auto insurer is the first one paying as opposed to a private plan that you may have through work or through your spouse, that's not a bad idea. Simplifying the process for our clients and for accident victims across the province is a good idea. If you can get rid of the paperwork, if you can get rid of the red tape, if you can get rid of all of the dynamics of who pays based on the time of the year and new coverage and old coverage and overlapping coverage, that's great for the consumer. It's great for the accident victim, but it has to be in a system that makes sense. And if you remove red tape, but you also remove access to quality benefits, it's not worth the trade-off. Another question has been raised in the discussion paper, but not terribly considered. While the OSI is not currently considering implementing sublimits on Section B medical coverage, the OSI is interested in hearing from stakeholders, and that means you, as to whether this is an area that should be explored further. You should be scared by this. Here's what happened in Alberta. There is a sublimit for different types of treatment providers. Chiropractic services, $1,000. Massage therapy services, $350. Acupuncture services, $350. I don't know about you. It doesn't matter if you're in Halifax, Yarmouth, or Sydney. These services are increasingly expensive. You can't get a lot of treatment for $1,000, and you certainly can't get a lot of treatment for $350 by a massage therapist. I can tell you, and you know someone who benefits from chiro, from massage and acupuncture. To cut these back with sublimits is scary. It will impact what accident victims get in terms of treatment, and it will impact their recovery. Folks will go not fully restored in terms of their treatment, and their recovery potential will be limited by this. This is just terrifying. If this is concerning to you, even remotely, even if it's 10% of what my level of concern is, look into this further and take action based on what you see in this presentation. What are your views on the possibility of sublimits for medical coverage under Section B? Well, you know what I think. It's a terrible idea. If Nova Scotia were to introduce sublimits for chiropractic, massage therapy, and acupuncture services, what should the limits be? Well, there shouldn't be one. We pay enough for the auto insurance product. Car accident insurers make money every single year by insuring vehicles in Nova Scotia. They don't need a sublimit to save more money. We need more access to services and they can make a great profit too. So what can you do? You need to give your feedback. You need to take action, because sitting back and not raising your concerns and not lending your voice to this concerning proposed amendment isn't doing enough. Think about the future. Think about what may happen and know that you just lack control about getting in a car accident, and you could be a victim of reduced rights because of this proposed change to auto insurance. So you submit your feedback directly to the Office of the Superintendent of Insurance. Don't send it to me. Send it to the people that matter. Send it to the people who are directly interested in making this change that could affect you tomorrow, next week, next year. We just simply don't know. You can email it, autoreview@novascotia.ca, or you can mail in your comments. I'm going to make it really easy. Take out your phone, go to the QR code. This will automatically set up an email so that you can email autoreview@novascotia.ca. Take action. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need to be a lawyer. You don't need to be a car accident victim. You just need to be somebody who might be involved in this scenario, or have somebody with a loved one that maybe you don't drive a car. Well, you could be a pedestrian involved in a car accident. Maybe you're a cyclist. We all know those who are hit by cars while being on a bicycle. And even if we don't have anything to do with cars in our lives, I guarantee you we all know somebody who does. That person may well need help from accident benefits, and they may well need help from fair compensation as well. People reach out every day to me as a personal injury lawyer with concerns about their car accident insurance, their ability to get treatment, and the right to get fair compensation. It is seriously at risk. So please take a moment, send an email, express your concern. If you have any questions, just write me, Jeff, Jeff, at novainjurylaw.com. I will answer your questions. I'll provide you with more information. I'll provide you with real life examples that will help you to consider this issue and voice concern that you should have about these proposed changes. They're being proposed. Have your say, take action. Thank you for listening to this video, and I wish you and your family the very best.